Hi, Adrian. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm Paige Krause. I'm the Outreach Director here at the Acadiana Center for the Arts in downtown Lafayette, Louisiana. And we are gearing up for our annual celebration and event, the Student Arts Expo. It's a collaboration with the ACA and the Lafayette Parish School System. And we are in our 12th year. And it's where we really highlight and honor all of the incredible visual and performing arts that take place across all of our schools in Lafayette Parish, pre-K through 12th grade. So we encourage you to come out. It will be on May 8th in downtown Lafayette from 3 to 8 p.m. And it's a little different this year with a hybrid. So there's ways that people can engage online, virtually, and there's also lots of events happening safely here in downtown Lafayette at the ACA. So one of the many events and elements of the Student Arts Expo is our student artist market. And that is where we engage with teachers and with students and set up market for our students that are creating work to start thinking about how they're selling work. And so we are really happy to be talking to some of our local artists that do that very successfully. And Adrian Guidry is joining me today, and she is one of those artists. She is an incredible artist in our community, and she is also the owner of Adorn in downtown Lafayette. So thanks, Adrian. You'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My shop is downtown. I'm conveniently right across from ACA. I'm about to have my 10th birthday celebration for the shop. So we've been in business for 10 years. And we've gone through lots of changes. Initially, most of the sales were storefront. Through this huge transition that we're all going through with COVID, I'd have to say that my online sales have at least doubled, if not more. So this is such a good time to talk about online selling, which I think you're going to talk about here in a second. I went to UL here in Lafayette, Louisiana. I also went to the Gemological Institute of America to get some jewelry making skills. And I kind of combined those two things and create what I do, which is artisan jewelry.
Yeah, that's great. And I think your voice is so important. And I know that you really supported a lot of artists that are venturing out into that artist market world, but thinking of online platforms. And I think that's such an important conversation, especially right now. And you have done that so gracefully and shared some of those tips. So we also want to do the same thing for our students and for our community. So let's just jump right in. Let's start. I really wanted to start about, I always think of when we're selling, artists think of their website and then those other online platforms like Etsy that you use and Shopify. So if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about the difference of those platforms and some tips and tools of what you think of them.
Absolutely. I think everyone initially feels they have to have a website. That's the first thing that when you open an online business, people tend to focus on. It's what I focused on initially. I don't have a website anymore, and I can tell you kind of the transition and why I chose that. First, let's start with the difference between the online selling platforms as opposed to your own website. If you can think of the online selling platforms sort of like the mall or a group of stores where everyone comes already, it's naturally the traffic is driven. If you had, as opposed to if you had a freestanding location out in the middle of somewhere else. Just like physically, you're going to have to drive your traffic and your customers to your website. They don't know to go there. So you're going to have to pass out cards and go online and try to get the traffic to your website. If you chose an online platform like Etsy or Shopify, they send the traffic to you. So all you really have to do is, and you can send your traffic as well, but you get so many more opportunities to sell on the online platform. The way I work my website now is if you go to my website, which is Jewelry by Adorn, so I get my own web address, it actually directs you to my Etsy site. And a lot of the different online platforms do that. So you're not having to manage all these different components to sell your work.
Right. It's all built in. And I know that you earlier this year were telling us about the Etsy platform. And I was like, just amazed at all of the options within that they do. It really is just so user friendly, and it feels like such an incredible platform to assist you.
Very successful for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think time management too. I mean, I think that's a a really large component, huge component of managing your website. And with something like Etsy, it really does help you sort of organize yourself and update you and send you timelines to keep you on track.
Absolutely. And I don't know about everyone else, but me as an artist is not the most organized person. So it certainly helps you stay on track and be very business focused.
Yeah, I do. I think that's really important. I think artists are a bit, you're juggling so many different things. So any kind of tools that can help along the way like that, I think we should accept.
Absolutely.
Maybe talk to us about the cost of those things, of using them.
Sure, sure. A website, gosh, you can get a free one and do it yourself if you've got some talents with that, but you still have to pay for the online hosting and the search engine optimizations and all those details. So it can get anywhere from, $50, $60 to several $1,000s to host a website. And I'm sure most people are familiar or at least have an idea about the websites. A lot of the online platforms are, they give you a great opportunity to try it without investing a whole lot of money like you would in a website. Um, Etsy is free. You can open a store and you can put your things out there. You're not going to pay until you make a sale.
Mhm.
Um, Amazon Handmade is another and one of the free ones. Shopify and some of the sites like Shopify have a monthly fee, but most of them have at least a 14 to 30-day trial period, so you can try um, to see how your items are working on those platforms before you invest in or commit to an investment.
Mhm. I think that's it too. I know that I'll get lost in things like Etsy of just how beautiful some of the artists, like the images that you capture and the way that you display it. It really does do. I haven't used Amazon Handmade, but that's a new one. I didn't even know
The
it.
newer one, they've been around for a couple years. They're trying really hard to get up there with Etsy. Not quite yet,
Yeah,
um, but Amazon's got a lot of power. Let's see where they go.
right. Sure, sure. So maybe talk to us a little bit about as you get this going and as you have your work up there. I know there's a lot that goes into it. I think photographing your work.
Sure.
Maybe talk to us briefly about you capturing these images, because I think you do that beautifully too. They're very clear and precise images that you really learn a lot about your unique way of creating jewelry. So do you photograph on your own?
I do. I have hired a professional photographer. I think all these things are so important. If you think of either your Etsy site or your website or any way you choose to sell, it's just like your storefront. It is your storefront.
Mhm.
So the pictures and the way you describe them are exactly the perception of your customers are going to get a view. So they have to be the best you can afford. I wish I can do all of them professionally, but there's lots of classes that you can take that help you photograph your items the best you can. Um, Not only photographing your items, I also think it's very important to make sure your spelling is correct, your grammar is correct. I'm horrible at that. I send everything to family members and have them spell check it, because the last thing you want to do is get someone interested in your work and then they see something unprofessional and they lose confidence in you and they click to the next person. So all of those things have to be um, very well gone over and make sure that you're representing yourself the best way you can. As far as taking photos, um, I've got one of those fancy cameras that I thought I needed with the light box and all that good stuff. Just one of the most updated camera phones does a great job. You really don't have to invest in all the equipment that and your camera will do just your phone camera will do just as well.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great tool. I mean, I'm amazed at when I see photos now and how clear and precise they are, and that's all through just your phone, your iPhone, or your phone that you're using. And that's a great tip too of like getting someone to proof it. I say the same thing when I'm working with artists with grants, because sometimes, you know, you're so wrapped up into the details of your own, to just let someone step back and go through and see the spelling or see anything that might raise a flag is so helpful. And it really does, that first impression sometimes is, and I'm sure in online sales, the relationship building is so important. So you really want to capture those customers.
Absolutely. And you do build relationship with them. I have several in Houston and I was planning on taking a trip to Houston. It was on my online customers that told me, don't come. There's a tornado warning this weekend. And it touched my heart so much that, I mean, you build customer base in your in your, you know, when they walk into your shop, but to have that kind of relationship online is really special, and you
Yeah,
can absolutely build it that way too.
it goes a long way. And as artists too, I think that's really building your donor base, that they're going to be supportive of you as you grow and you try new techniques or new mediums or whatever you're working in. So it's just as important as face to face now. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, maybe tell us about how things that you think might help your sales or anything that might hurt your sales, just some of the points and the obstacles with those things online.
Sure, sure. I think we kind of touched on it a second ago. Make sure that your storefront is the best it can be. The photographs are the best they can be. Several of them help as opposed to just one. That's something I struggle with as well. I mean, to me, it's a pair of earrings. There's a pair of earrings, but customers want to see it on a person, see how it looks. And I'm using that jewelry as an example because that's what I do. But the same thing with artwork or anything that you're selling. If you can get faces in the photos, those tend to sell more if it's appropriately placed.
Mhm.
Several different angles and you know, zooming in and zooming out. Videos are
Mhm.
very trendy right now.
Mhm.
Um, it's really hard for me to video myself as I'm using a torch, but there's lots of tools that you can use to sort of capture what you do. And just like you said, your customers want to know what you do and what techniques you're trying and how you create the image that they're buying. So all those things help.
Mhm.
Things that hurt, ratings. I cannot emphasize enough to take care of your, always do what's right, take care of your customers every single time, and those ratings will come. I'm sure you, just as like everyone else, will go to something you want to buy, and if it's got 1 star from everyone, that'll be a deterrent for you. It's not something that you want to take a risk on. So make sure that every customer is happy and ask for good ratings. um, and they're happy to, if they support you, they're happy to do it. So bad ratings will definitely hurt your sales. Confusing information or misleading information can hurt your sales. So again, I'm going to use jewelry as an example. If I, in the title, list a pair of earrings as gold plated, and in the description I say it's gold filled, um, that's confusing. I mean, it has to be very accurate and it's easy to do because when you're creating these websites, it's so tedious and so labor intensive. You end up cutting and pasting a lot. So you have to go through all those details and make sure you're not missing information or conflicting the descriptions and the information. So that's important as well. I mean, again, just get someone to reread it and check it and double check it before you put it out there.
Yeah, I think that's so great. The consistency with it is so important, and it really does go so far. And I think you do something that's very special of just in each. And I've had this with Etsy sales too, which make it so personal. Is in each package, I think you give a little gift.
I do. I do. I have a little card and I ask for feedback. I mean, positive or negative. I actually have my email address and ask for any negative feedback to come to my email address because that gives me a chance to correct it as opposed to just putting it out there publicly. And then I ask for a rating. If you like what I've sent, then please love us and give us some stars. And I give a little token gift with my purchases as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's just these are the reasons why we want to support local artists or we want to support independent artists around, from coming from anywhere. I know that I've gotten just little handmade cards with a purchase that has maybe a quote or something that,
Yeah.
just really makes you stop and you're reflective of why as a consumer that you're purchasing this because it's handmade, because it's special, because it speaks to you. So
I had the opportunity once, I'll share this story real quick, which so it gives me chills. I sell scapulas online, and that's probably one of my biggest sellers. It's a Catholic religious sort of a necklace thing. And they sell very well all over the world. And my neighbor last year, 2 years ago now, went to Italy, and I gave her 100 or so of them to get blessed by the Pope. So when people would order them, I didn't say that in there because I certainly didn't want to use that as a selling point, but I'd add a little note, oh, by the way, this scapula was blessed by the Pope. And I got so much feedback that said, this is why we buy from local artists. This is why we buy, because you get, I mean, it's something that you can never create that's so special. So if you can create those sort of experiences for your customers online, that's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a story to tell, right? Like when
Mhm.
you wear that, when they wear that, they're going to share that story. I mean, I know I have pieces of your work, and each time it's a story too of like how I know you and how programs and work that you've done. And that's what makes it so meaningful, and to have those experiences. So I think putting that touch and thinking through those things, whether they're, the funness of it, the quirkiness of it. Those are all the reasons why we support, artists to create work. So I love that. I think it goes a long way. So let's talk about, you have these different platforms, and you also are managing a shop. And I'm always curious of like the organization of all of these things, because I know that as artists too, you have to be really mindful of your day and how you're arriving, and things like packing the work and selling the work and shipping the work. So can you just kind of talk us a little bit about how you incorporate all that along with continuing to stay relevant and advertise? So just some tips and tools of how you manage all of that day to day.
It's been 10 years evolving, that's for sure. And I think what I do, well, I know what I do is so unique that it's kind of hard to um, write up of a description of what I do every day, because definitely the one thing you have to do is um, be ready to change your plan, because that things happen every day that kind of throws off your workflow. Um, I get here early in the morning and take care of my web orders, or at least I prepare the process to begin the web orders. The shop opens, and I think that the customers, at least they tell me, they appreciate watching me work, and that's what I do most of the day. My studio is right in front of the shop, so when you come in, you'll hear me banging and making the orders that I got the day before to send out that day. Um, I think you'd ask something about advertising as well in
I
there.
think that's
Uh,
a big component too of like, and you have to think about how you're advertising along with that.
Sure, sure, sure. So I'm going to talk about advertising online, because that's certainly what we're talking about here. Advertising for the shop is a little different, but they can intertwine. The first thing I have to say about advertising is you have to make sure all the things we've talked about already today are covered. It'll do you no good if you're advertising and you haven't gotten your shop professionally looking. If you don't have the good photos, if you don't have it spell checked, you'll do yourself more harm by advertising. And I see that happen over and over again. So make sure that you've tested your site, you know the items that are selling, and you're ready to advertise. I mean, you've swept your door front and Windex your window, and you're ready to say, okay, people come in. Once you feel like you're at that point, there's so many ways online to advertise. Facebook and Instagram are great. They're very user friendly. You can connect them, so you only have to do once, and that's a time saver. It's also very inexpensive. You can do it with just a couple dollars. So you can test different taglines, different demographics, and you can kind of play with that without wasting or investing too much money, and find what works for you and focus on that. Um, Other website or other online platforms like Pinterest. I have a Pinterest coach who calls me every week, and we talk about what's working, and he helps me redesign. So a lot of the other sites are kind of gearing toward that, because not everyone knows how to advertise online or do it successfully. And I think that's pretty clever about Pinterest. They are a little more expensive, but you feel like you're not having to go through so much testing, because you have a coach that's guiding you and offering suggestions. So that's real interesting. But again, I can't advertise, I can't emphasize, make sure that your website or platform or whatever whatever you choose to use is in the best condition you can get before you drive traffic to it.
Yeah. How interesting. I didn't know they did coaches, but I love that, because
Yeah.
I do think navigating all of those tools can be, quite time consuming. And
And it's difficult too. It's not as user friendly as some of the others. I mean, you really have to spend some time trying to figure it out. So they were wise to get coaches to help you with that.
that's great. Yes. And I think as young, thinking about a young artists too, it's like they probably are much more hip to all of these social
Mm.
media and connecting it. But that consistency is so important too. And so the voice that you're going to use to sell your work might be different from your own independent voice, but that consistency with all of those, and that Etsy and platforms like this really do help connect all of those things. There's tools that can do that for you.
Absolutely. And then most of the selling platforms, I'll use Etsy as an example as well. Again, they'll tell you where your traffic comes from. So you can see what's working. And all of this is very user friendly. It just takes a little time to go in and navigate and get a feel for what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, as our young artists are thinking about moving to that platform, I'm wondering if you think there's a certain amount of work that they need to have, whether that's in three-dimensional work or jewelry or
That's a good
two-dimensional
question.
work, before
Yeah,
you start thinking of this.
you want a full inventory, absolutely. Whether you're selling just one piece, I mean, I often put jewelry pieces that are just one of a kind. So when you sell that one, it's gone. Or gold hoop earrings that I sell hundreds. Actually, I think I just hit 9,000 of those. I can't believe that I've made 9,000 earrings. But inventory, just like in a shop, if you walk in and it's empty, you're going to question the integrity. You're going to question whether or not you want to buy from them. So you want to make the inventory nice and full. A lot of one-off pieces, and it depends on what you do. But yes, absolutely, you want to make sure your inventory is full. There's a retail saying that if you want to sell one, you need 20. I don't know how true that is, but it kind of, you think about that as you're setting up your displays or your online shops, for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, those are great. Those are great tools. Thank you so much. I think kind of to wrap it up and go back a little, that's a lot that we covered, but I think first exploring, and like you said, there's so many great trials with those platforms like Etsy
It's on handmade marketplaces.
and then Shopify,
Mhm.
and then really sort of looking at your inventory before you jump into those, and really taking some time to look at the text that you're going to include in the way that you're describing, and including all of the photographs. So whether you're doing
Good
that on your
photographs.
own
Absolutely.
or that you're working with someone else, start to collect all of that and kind of find a consistent voice that when you do share that it's been proved, that someone else has helped you look at that you've had your friends, your family members go through it and see what the choices are. And then after that, as you're starting to move back into it, I'm sure there's so many resources online. I don't know if there's any, Adrian, that you could suggest that you use, but any kind of blogs, individuals.
YouTube, you can YouTube anything and they'll show you how to do it. Absolutely.
Right. And I think one of the other values, especially like working with artists in Acadiana, is that as young artists, I'm a firm believer in asking questions. And so
Absolutely.
there are artists throughout Acadiana, especially like Adrian. Adrian also works with the Monkus Park and the market there, and works with the artists there. And so I think there's incredible artists that are doing work in this community, and they are happy to share tools and ideas and tips to help you with that. So asking questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But come out and see us at the Student Arts Expo, and come out and see Adrian. Her shop is incredible, and it's here in downtown Lafayette, Adorn. What is the address?
It's actually Vermilion Street address, but I'm on the Jefferson side. I'm right across from ACA,
Awesome.
the Gordon Hotel building.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Adrian.